First of all, I just want to say a few words of thanks to various people for helping to make today happen. First of all, I want to thank the three sponsors of today's event, the Association of Industrial Relations Academics of Australia and New Zealand, or AIRNS, of which we have many proud members of in this room, the Union Strategy Research Group at the University of Sydney Business School, and the Centre for Workforce Futures at Macquarie University. So I also want to thank the chairs and all the speakers for speaking today, and just like to say that the Accord couldn't have happened without the partnership between the Labor Party under Bob Hawke and Paul Keating and the ACTU, and today's event couldn't have happened without the cooperation of the University of Sydney and Macquarie University. So I just want to thank a few particular people. To thank Lucy Taxa and Paul Golan from Macquarie for their support for this event, for Pam Morpeth for the considerable work that she did in organising today's proceedings, Braden Ellam, Ray Cooper and Marion Baird from the University of Sydney, and particularly to Ray Markey and to Russell Lansbury today, who really have been, despite what Russell said, they have really been the driving force behind today's event and in getting this amazing list of speakers who have had speak today before us. Okay, just a few other things to note is that there's going to be a special section of the Journal of Industrial Relations, thanks to its editors, Braden Ellam and Marion Baird here today. It will be coming out in February 2014, and some of the papers presented today will be published, subject to peer review. And also, if you've missed any of today's proceedings on ABC News 24, which I believe broadcasts some of the earlier sessions, then you'll be able to watch soon the entire event in full on the Centre for Workforce Futures website, hopefully very soon. Okay, so one other person I forgot to thank also is Ed Davis, who has played an important role in planning today's event along with Russell, Ray and Braden, and just maybe just finish off by just talking about some of the objectives of today's event when we met in January to discuss and to plan for today. Well, first of all, we drew up a wish list of speakers, which thanks to Russell and Ray, we've managed to basically fulfil in its entirety. The second thing is we drew up a number of objectives about what we wanted to get out of today's event. The first objective was a modest one. The Accord is, uncontroversially a landmark in our industrial relations and our political and economic history in Australia. And we thought it was only appropriate, if no one else was going to do so, that the occasion of its 30th birthday should be marked in some way. And this is the way that we decided to do it. The second was more ambitious, and it was essentially to ask, does the Accord in any way represent a model of policy making that we should seek to replicate for addressing future economic challenges as a country? And in this sense, I want to repeat the comments of Willie Brown earlier today, who said that we're here today to both judge the past and to learn from the past. So, in addressing the objectives that we sought to meet, one question that we wanted to ask was the Accord a good thing? This is not an easy answer, and there's, I guess, the lack of consensus about the answer to this question is one of the motivations for holding this event today. So just to draw upon some of the threads that were raised in today's discussion. Well, the Accord seemingly dealt with, I guess, perhaps its main aim, to address the problems of stagflation that were inherent in the economy in 1983 and the preceding decade. And as Willie again noted, Australia was not alone in this challenge. Other economies faced this challenge as well. But the involvement of unions in the process of responding to this challenge and the social wage trade-offs that were achieved in return for wage restraint set Australia apart from other English-speaking advanced economies where unions and workers arguably fared worse than here. So, although we We saw wage restraint during a period of the Accord. We saw living standards and maintained and arguably improved through the social wage provisions that have been commented on widely today. But as Jed and a number of other people have pointed out, we have seen since the beginning of the Accord period a high increase in insecure work, a decline in union membership, and a decline in the coverage of union negotiated instruments, either awards or enterprise agreements. So although the Accord was able to meet some of its objectives, a number of unintended consequences arose. But whether these outcomes were inevitable in the context of a modern and open economy, or a post-protectionist economy, or whether the transition for workers and unions could have been managed more sensitively perhaps here, remains a matter of debate, as we've seen throughout today's discussion. Another question that the organisers of the event today wanted to ask was, does the Accord in any way represent a template for future policy making? Okay, so as some of the speakers today said, we face we face challenges today like we did in 1983, even if they're very, very different, and if the economic context of 2013 is very different to 30 years ago. Just touching on some of the key challenges that we face today, the impact of a high dollar on the capacity of export sectors, particularly outside the mining sector, to remain competitive is a huge challenge. And as Simon Crean articulated this morning, we need continual improvement in skills, innovation and productivity to remain internationally competitive. Business and union leaders may well acknowledge this, as a number have done today and as Jed and Peter alluded to. But low membership levels among both unions and employers limit their capacity to mobilise consensus as they did during the Accord period. So the Accord, as has been remarked, may have prevented us, at least for the time being, from going down the highly polarised road that the US and the UK went down after the 1980s. But one thing we haven't really, well, perhaps some of us have spoken about this today, but one thing that we haven't heard of in great detail was, did it go far enough? We didn't completely go down the Nordic road, for example, of where tripartite dialogue provided the space for the consolidation of a high skills and innovation economy. And to this extent, I wonder if the Australia Reconstructed, which was a key document created during the Accord years in 1987, is something of represents something of an opportunity missed. Whether it's enough to simply say we did better than the UK and Britain, therefore the Accord may have been a good thing, or whether we could have potentially used the experience to go down a road that would have consolidated a more prosperous economic future for Australia. But as Jed Carney said in the last session, as she renewed Jed Carney renewed in the last session a call for tripartite dialogue in order to identify ways to diversify economy and to distribute more fairly the fruits of economic growth. And it'll be interesting to see whether this call is taken up by employers and other actors in the coming months and years. So the Accord was a landmark agreement, arguably an imperfect one. The modern contextual differences of the economy today mean that any Accord type agreement would inevitably look different to the Accord 1983 to 1996. But at a time when consensus and compromise in industrial relations and among the political and economic actors more generally is somewhat lacking, hopefully today's occasion at the very least will make the actors consider to some extent the lessons of the Accord as we approach the economic challenges that we face into the future. Thank you very much, and see you in another 30 years.